Welcome to the basement.
What's going on, guys, and welcome to the Basement Boys podcast. I am Chris Gray. Somewhere around here is Eric Mincer, and let's just jump right into it today. Got something to say, Eric?
I was just going to say I'm pleasantly in my basement as well. We're both basement boys. That's what we do.
Oh, I just noticed you switched all the jerseys this time around.
Yeah, color scheme in it. We went blue.
All right, so let's start with some of the best fights of the year last night. UFC 256 picks went a little sideways. As you can see, you're not wearing sunglasses indoors this time around, but
It was basically, 2-3, but it was really like 2-1. It was an interesting card, but that was a hell of a fight. All of them, actually.
I mean, if it wasn't for the fucking super nut shot that took away the point, and then one judge scored the fifth for Moreno, which I don't know how you do, but
yeah, for those who don't know, what we're talking about in the final fight, in the championship fight, Figueiredo got a pretty clear nut shot on Moreno. It wasn't intentional.
It wasn't intentional, but something like that is going to affect the fight moving forward. So I honestly think they should do that more, but it just worked against me in the picks. So this time it sucked.
Yeah, that's an unforeseen circumstance, but damn, dude, that was a hell of a fight. Every time it looked like one was getting the attack going, Moreno would answer back, or Figueiredo would answer back. It was an all-out war.
And Moreno just really cemented his place as keeping his name synonymous with that Mexican fighter type stereotype, like that just unbelievable toughness, will walk you down even though he's eating the biggest shots. And I really just made himself like a guy in Mexico with one fight. It was amazing. It really was.
That was a really amazing fight, and that was something they were talking about a lot. Joe Rogan and DC were saying on the broadcast. But I personally am not totally familiar with who the Mexican fighters are. So, want to walk me through that real quick?
Your Oscar De La Hoyas, stuff like that, just old timer Mexican fighters, born in Mexico. They have this it's a very common style of just in your face, we'll take a punch to give a punch, tough as absolute nails. You're going to have to throw the entire kitchen sink at them if you even want a chance to get them out of there. You're not going to break them. That's
definitely was Moreno.
Yeah, that was everything Moreno personified. And I was very, very surprised by that fight. He looked absolutely fantastic. He just everywhere. He was matching him on the ground, on the feet. And he ate some of the biggest shots from Figueiredo. And Figueiredo hits like a 145-pounder.
That was the thing, was the sound of every time he connected, because obviously the vacuum of not having a crowd, every sound was just hard hit. But then Moreno got the takedown in the fourth round and just flipped he just flipped the cage basically. He was getting beat up and then took control on top. Do you think they're gonna have a rematch coming up for?
Oh, you have to. Even Dana said it. You absolutely have to. It was a draw. In a championship fight, you don't want to say, "Oh, I kept my belt from a draw." You want to put a stamp on it that no, this is my belt.
Right. Absolutely, the pride of winning and defending rather than backing in with a draw.
It does technically count as a defense because you have to win the belt. You have to win the belt. But I don't think there's any fighter out there who would want that, who would not want to take the taste out of their mouth of, I didn't win my last fight. So I'm sure Figueiredo's on it, and Moreno gets an immediate rematch on a title shot. So I'm sure he's absolutely down to do it. When that happens, after a fight like that, Figueiredo got transported to the hospital afterwards, so we don't know what's going on there. probably going to be some hefty medical suspensions on both of them. I wouldn't even surprise me if both of them got 6 months. They just had 2 fights, 3 weeks apart, both of them.
Unbelievable. Warriors.
So I think it's going to be a while until that rematch happens. But the next fight to make is the rematch. It has to be.
That gives us something to maybe we could see over the summer. It's a big hyped up rematch.
Yeah, I'm thinking probably late spring, early summer, if I had to guess.
That was pretty dope. There's a bunch of good ones though. Right before that, the Tony Ferguson upset.
That was shocking to me. Like, I thought Do Bronx was a problem, and I thought Oliveira really did have like posed a threat. There was a reason he was in that fight. It wasn't just a gimme fight. It wasn't like they were giving him someone lower to kind of like get that W back. They gave him a real fight and a real challenge in Charles Oliveira, but Charles Oliveira really stepped to the plate, man. Tony Ferguson could not handle anything he was doing on the feet. You heard them say it in the commentary, he was just so, like, Oliveira was just so technical that weird, like, Tony has a very unorthodox style. He's just an unorthodox person. So, but because Oliveira was being so technically precise, it kind of shut that down.
I really like that phrase that you just said. He's such an unorthodox person. I'd like to think of
he really is.
Yeah, I like that. It's very unique. So, what about Oliveira's game? Do you think like surprised Ferguson and just threw him off of his game?
I don't really know. It just all of it. He just beat him on every level. Like, that's the thing. It wasn't like, oh, he had an advantage somewhere. Like, he didn't have an advantage any other places. I knew he was going to be tough for him on the ground. They're both black belts. But Tony's also a black belt under Eddie Bravo, who's a little nuts, but he's still one of the best jiu-jitsu practitioners in the world. But just on the feet, it was such a beautiful technical performance. He wasn't loading up. He wasn't, like, everything came slick and clean, and he was picking his shots and, like, throwing punches in bunches, and just, it was a beautiful performance. And it
was like art.
It really was. But the thing that worries me is, was that able to happen because Tony's finally reached his point? Every fighter does. They reach that point where they were a world beater, and then the next fight they're not.
Right. See that with like pretty much all athletes. What do you think is next for Oliveira?
He's got to be close to the title fight conversation. Depending on like this Khabib thing that may or may not happen, I really don't think it's going to happen. Just from everything I've heard, I know Dana says, "Oh, it's going to happen. Oh, he wants to go 30-0." I really, everything I've heard on Khabib's head makes me believe that he's happy being done, and it's just going to be done.
Yeah, we were talking about that yesterday. You were telling me that you think, it's not like Conor who said he retired and then Conor came back. You think Khabib is actually just living his retired life.
Yeah, he seems happy. He just bought an MMA promotion, talking about like feeding goats and shit. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, dude wrestled bears. That's how he got to where he was. So why not? He let the goat feed the goat.
Yeah. So I don't think that's happening. So I think there's 2 options now at this point to make a new title, whether it's interim if they're still trying to get the Khabib thing to go in, or just the vacated title. I think depending on what happens with the Conor Poirier fight, if someone wins in astonishing fashion, I think they'll probably get into it too. Just they're big names and it's the fresher fight. But if not, Charles Oliveira needs to fight Justin Gaethje, and we need to get ourselves a new champion.
Definitely, and then we'll see who wins Poirier and McGregor next month.
Yeah, I think that fight really depends on where this is gonna go. How I think if Connor wins, it's probably going to be Connor.
Right.
But if Poirier like knocks Connor the fuck out in like crazy fashion, I think he'll probably get it over Gaethje at that point.
And do you think that's because Connor's more deserving, or because it's Connor?
It's because it's Connor. The UFC
Yeah.
not that he wouldn't be not deserving. If he can beat Poirier especially in like an astonishing fashion, like I can see why they would give him the fight. Like on a professional level, but just when Conor McGregor does well, the UFC makes money. That just is what
Right.
that is.
Well, the high wave rises all ships. Isn't that how the phrase goes? Something like that. Did I make that up? I don't know. Leave it in the comments below. There's Mackenzie Dern had a really nice win too earlier in the night. That one you got correct. That was a fun fight.
Yeah, she a lot of times every time like when you see a fight like this, you expect a grappling war because they're both jiu-jitsu black belts and it's just like that's where they're comfortable, but a lot of times those other people know how much of a challenge that person will be in the grappling and think they might have the advantage in the striking. So they'll keep it up on the feet. You see it all the time. Like Damian Maia, Ben Askren was there for a little bit, but then it did turn into the grappling match that we were all hoping for. Well, people who like grappling were hoping for. But
You're a grappling guy.
But Mackenzie Dern, man, like her hands compared to where she was before she went out with getting pregnant, it's night and day.
She's got the new mom strength. She's just ready to go. It's like Mike
talking
Trout's first
about
at bat after having a kid. Homer.
I'm just talking about technique wise. It was amazing. Like she was throwing her punches clean. She was not loading up until she started getting hit a little more, and she started to revert back a little bit to like she was never really a swang and banger, but like more into less technical, like
More
a less-
freestyle.
more like looping punches, loading up a little more as the fight went on, and after she broke her nose, and once she was getting to the point where she was just trying to like tough it out and get a win.
Her
And-
nose was very broken. It was very, very visibly broken.
Yeah, it was definitely not good. But man, she's a tough girl. Her hands are getting way better than they ever were before, and goddamn, her jiu-jitsu is still there. You saw it when they did go to the ground. Yeah, Mackenzie Dern is going to be a problem at 115 as long as she can keep making the weight. And since she's come back after the pregnancy, she hasn't seemed to have a problem yet. I really think she's going to be a problem.
She looked real dominant, and that was a very fun fight to watch.
I definitely wouldn't say dominant. That was the other girl had a good game plan for her, man. She just stayed in there tough with her. I just didn't think she expected Mackenzie to be as tough as she was.
Yeah, that was a fun card. Those three were very fun fights.
They were, all three of them were very fun fights. And then before that, whew, man, Kevin Holland's a problem. Kevin Holland's a problem.
Yeah,
I know-
that was another one. You got that one correct, I believe.
I did. Yeah, Jacare's getting older, man, but you don't see that happen to him very often. He, off his back, that was the craziest part. From his, like, transition to on his butt to, like, scooting up to, like, get to his knees, he just cracked him with two huge shots. The first one, like, short-circuited his system. You could kind of see it in his face. And that second one put him out.
It lights out.
He
that
ate
was,
a
I
few
think, the
more
first
after
time-
that, too.
I think that was the first time I've ever seen someone literally start a knockout, like, finishing sequence from their back, going up with an up kick.
It wasn't an up kick. He slid up and like threw a punch. I think he landed an up kick at a different point in the fight. Someone landed an up kick. Yeah, he did.
Oh,
and
that was the up kick where his knee was down.
Yeah.
Right.
But that wasn't the end sequence. Yeah. I've seen a few up kick things before, but never with the hands like that. I mean, I've seen people in guard like throw elbows or hammer fists or things like that, but that's in a better position for them than where Holland was. And to just get that much torque behind his punches in that motion, it was incredible. Like, fuck, man. Jacare ate a lot of
That's some
shots.
real athleticism.
Yeah, he's going to be a problem at 85 too. I really believe it. He wants to fight Kazmat Shamaev.
That's easy for you to say.
I'm still getting used to that name because it's one that's come up in this year.
Right. Yeah.
But
you're the UFC name pronunciation expert.
no, yeah, like
that's not my strong suit.
Like I got Joanna Jędrzejczyk, I got Khabib Nurmagomedov, like I got all those because they've been there for a while. But Kazmat Shamaev is, I'm getting it down now, but it's still pretty new comparably.
I mean, you could pronounce Khabib's last name, right? That's its own skill set. Add that to your LinkedIn.
Yeah, but that would be a good fight. Kazmat has like talked about going to 185. I think he might have gone to 85 at one point in one of the streak. I don't exactly remember. I wouldn't mind seeing him heavier. Like in that division.
Where would you see him go?
What do you mean?
You said go heavier. Do you think he would fight up a weight class?
No, yeah, that's what we're talking about. They're not. Kevin Holland and him are not in the same weight class.
Right.
Kazmat is in 170, so I'd like if that is something he would be interested in, and just knowing that guy, he probably would be.
Okay, that makes sense.
I think it'd be fun to see him at 185 going against Kevin Holland.
Do you think who's next for Kevin Holland? Do you think that's the next fight?
I think it very well could be. I don't know. I think it depends on how Dana wants to play him. If Dana wants to bring him along a little more slowly, I think he probably gets like a Weidman next. Just another older guy with a big name.
Yeah, everybody remembers Weidman from the Anderson Silva fight.
Unless Weidman, I think Weidman said he's probably gonna go back to 85. I don't remember because he went up to 205. Him and Luke Rockhold tried to go up to 205. Did not work out. I think Jacare too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did not work out. If they're going, I could see him. I could see them doing a Masvidal fight. Actually,
I actually have not heard his name in a while. What's he been up to lately? Just recovering?
Yeah, because I feel like he could go up to 85 too.
He's a badass.
I just like it's probably not going to happen because he's a 70er, but just the talking those guys could do, like the build up,
fight
would
would
be
sell
amazing.
itself.
And
cool.
I do think that's something Masvidal would do.
Who was it that we were watching that was talking trash from like while in the triangle? Or not, maybe not in the triangle, while in guard. I think they were somebody was talking trash and
Kevin
Joe
Holland.
Rogan, yeah.
Kevin Holland's known for that. He talks and talks and talks, and he got into some trouble with it for Dana on
Well,
the
Joe
Contender
Rogan was
Series.
saying, like, I've never seen somebody just go off like this in the middle of the ring, just, like, while it's happening.
I think he just meant him as a person. Like, he's seen it from him before, but he's never seen it from anybody else from Kevin Holland. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, Kevin Holland's the guy. He's the guy with the mouth.
Yeah. But if I had to pick anyone else at 85, I don't really know. Like, there's not a lot of people left in 85. Romero just got cut. I could see them throw him to like a Gastelum, even though that would be a fucking real tough fight for him, man. Maybe a Till. A Till would be a fun fight. Darren Till versus him. That's another one where they would just talk for days. But he posted something on Instagram about going back down to 170, so everyone's jumping around weight classes recently, and it's getting very, very confusing. It's a lot of fun, but it's very confusing.
It brings it back to the original UFCs where there were no weight classes.
True, but these are much more calculated than that.
Yeah, of course. That was just insane. You'd see literal different styles of like sumo wrestling versus karate. Then the Royce Gracies of the world came in and Ken Shamrocks. Like, I remember that. It was crazy. But that was a really fun card last night. Like, I was very, very entertained.
Yeah, and then the first fight of the card, lost that one too, unfortunately, but is what it is. Junior Dos Santos is probably getting around the time that he should call it, but that's a lot of people in the heavyweight division. But yeah, Cyril Gane just stood up to the test. That's like kind of what he was like put there for. See if he could do it, and he did. Looked great doing it. Very, very just technical work. You know what I mean? Just like was chopping the leg, was working off the jab nice, keeping him on the back foot, just everywhere he was. It was just a great fight by him altogether. But yeah, went 2-3, 2-3-1. If it wasn't for a super nut kick, would have went 3-2.
That's why they call it gambling, not just winning. You know, you gotta risk it to get the biscuit.
I still take that as a decent night in my book. I was right about most things.
That's
in my opinion.
7-2-1 over the last two pay-per-view events. So anybody wants to win some UFC,
we're doing all right.
If anybody wants to win some UFC bets, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, because when Chris drops his knowledge, you're going to want to write it down. If you catch me on the YouTube video looking over to my side, it's because I'm watching football. It's during the Steelers-Bills game, which is 0-0 in the second quarter. The Steelers just got a wild interception. Sorry, that's just distracting me.
No, you're all right. That's what we do here. We're a sports show.
It's just football, man. It was a wild interception. The ball bounced through the guy's hands, almost hit the ground, went up. Steelers got it.
All right. So, would you like to take some phone calls right now, Eric? How you feeling there?
I will. I will gladly ask you to play some of the answers to last week's question, where we asked how you would celebrate a touchdown. I gotta say, this is one of, if not the funniest thing I've ever heard in terms of touchdown celebrations.
We only got one real answer that's worth mentioning, and it's from our old friend Richard Long.
That's Mr. Dick Long to you.
Hey, this is Richard Long again. How's everybody doing? So I know that we're talking about touchdown celebrations. I just wanted to throw in my 2-3 cents, you know what I mean? So basically, if I had scored a touchdown, what I would do is I would pretend I was giving childbirth. That's right. I'm in the room popping out a little child, and that'd be the football that would come right out of my vagina. It would plop onto the ground. Then what I would do is I would take that football, and I would spank it right in the ass and see if it cries. And then I would, of course, Gronk spike the motherfucker just to shut it up after it started crying. Now, another great one I think that I would do is I would pretend that I was really constipated, and I would have the football right up in the backside of my jersey, right? So I'd go take a little couple of walks and then take some squats and then maybe plop one out. And then once I'm done with the ball, I would freeze frame, change it around, and now pretend that ball was some toilet paper. So then what I would do is I would proceed to wipe with the ball, and I would take that ball and then, of course, Gronk spike it to shut the motherfucker up. And that's all from Richard Long.
Oh,
man. This guy is
Hey, Richard Long,
imaginative.
You might get a flag on the play, maybe an envelope from the NFL, but dude, you absolutely win.
I don't know. It's not 3 pumps. Childbirth is not 3 pumps. Unless he adds 3 pumps and then the childbirth, you know. We'll see.
That was by far the most innovative call we got. Most creative.
It was very, very creative. I will give him that. Yeah, definitely probably going to catch some flags.
What would Joe Buck say watching that? Do you remember when Randy Moss pretended to moon the crowd and Joe Buck said, "This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen"? Joe Buck would cry himself to sleep after that.
I think he would just honestly have like a brain aneurysm, if I had to guess. All right, but see, here's the thing, Eric. Mr. Long was not done there.
Oh, there's more.
He had quite the critique on the show. I think these are the important issues we're here to bring to the people. So let's check it out.
Hey, this is Richard Long, #1 fan here. So, yeah, I really love the show, loving the show. Now, I have one big critique, and it's pretty important. You guys do not acknowledge Fetty Wap enough. The show really just needs more talk about Fetty Wap, and you just have to acknowledge him. The show is just not the same without Fetty Wap acknowledgement and recognition. So, yeah, man, love the show otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Long, for
I'm going to come out right here and now and say that Eric Mincer is the reason we don't talk about Fetty Wap on this show enough. If it was my opinion, I would have all my 17 Fetty Wap posters right here.
1738. I apologize.
I didn't even do that on purpose.
yeah, you did. All right, Mr. Long, we're going to work in as many Fetty Wap references as we can. I want you to be my prom queen. Thanks for the honest feedback.
Yeah.
We'll come up with a tribute to Fetty. I got something in mind. We'll put it like that.
Oh, he's got the... Oh, not... I'm a little scared now. I'm not going to lie.
No, it's just a little subtle nod to him, but...
All right. So thank you, Richard. Fucking still my favorite human being in the fucking world. We will try to bring you more Fetty Wap content in the future. That is our promise to you. From the Basement Boys podcast.
I think that's going to give us our question of the week for next week for people to call into. Just call in and tell us how Fetty Wap has impacted your life for the better. We're just going to have a Fetty Wap appreciation week. Let's do it.
I'm in.
Let's
do it.
Yeah, maybe Fetty, if you're out there, if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, and Fetty, just leave us a 5-star review, maybe drop in our DMs. We'd love to have Fetty on the show to talk about bacon pies in the kitchen.
Fetty, you the man. We love you. Come on the show. All right, so let's jump on into football. Take it away, Eric.
Well, this is actually breaking news, unrelated to football. Sorry, you might want to cut this and just insert it somewhere else. But
Go.
Breaking news, the Cleveland MLB baseball team is reportedly set to change the name from Indians as soon as this week. So we might be having a...
I actually just saw that on, like right before we started recording. Yeah, could finally be happening.
We might have a Cleveland baseball team, yeah.
I don't know. I feel like they have a little more time to actually run with it.
Well, they're gonna have time to at least file trademarks and stuff.
And yeah, they didn't. This seems more like a calculated move before like people really start coming for them.
Well, they did say they were gonna try to phase out the Chief Wahoo, the logo, where the hats now are just the letter C instead of Wahoo, because I guess they realized that like that's pretty racist.
Yeah, it's a caricature of a person, and it's not a flattering one.
Maybe that's our call of the week. If you have a Fetty Wap appreciation story you want to share, by all means. But maybe call us in. Chris was going to put the phone number right here because that's the magic of the internet. Call in and tell us what you believe the Cleveland baseball team will go by and what they should go by. I know our friend Richard Long is going to have a great name for the Cleveland baseball team, the Cleveland something.
Yeah, I do expect a call, Richard. I'm not going to lie to you. If I don't get one, I will be very disappointed. and it might cry just a little bit.
All right, so hit us with your Cleveland baseball team names, and we'll play them on air. Sorry for that segue. I just got the breaking news as we were going into the NFL Week 14 action.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's start off with the Jets because they lost 40-3. The Seahawks covered. Russell Wilson was taken out in the third quarter. They didn't wait till the fourth quarter to bench him. So that happened, and that's going to get that one out of the way first.
Yeah, rough game.
Really don't got anything to
Rough
say.
game.
Really don't got anything to say. I mean, it's two different sports what the Jets play and what the Seahawks play. But hey.
Hey, man. If Russell Wilson wanted to, he'd kick the shit out of Tebow baseball, all right?
Yeah, I heard
He
that.
literally
talking
just
smack.
said that.
He said that. Pardon my take. I heard that.
That is literally the least Tebow thing I've ever heard. I mean, the least Russell Wilson thing I've ever heard.
I just think that he really doesn't like Tebow. I think he's like, I am the ideal quarterback, Christian baseball player in that order.
No, I don't think he doesn't like him. I just think
Nah, he's I don't know.
I don't know. I definitely think he might be a little bit like, hey, why the fuck are we all on this guy's jock? I'm doing the same thing, but just way better.
He's a lot better. Tebow Mania was just a whole different animal.
It was fun
Anyways.
though. It was kind of like Linsanity. It wasn't really a thing, but it was fun.
It was a thing. Insanity was fun for a couple weeks. As you can see, I'm a New York Knicks fan wearing the shirt. Not that applies to those of you listening on the podcast. Let's get into some real football, though. Let's start it off. The Bears at home destroyed the Texans by the score of 36-7.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bears needed it to stay alive, and they're 6-7, so snapped a 6-game losing streak.
But I was surprised to see that offense get going like it did. Like that David Montgomery run on, I think it was his first carry, wasn't it?
Yeah, 80 yards for a touchdown. Finished the game averaging 10 yards a carry. Mitchell Trubisky had 3 touchdowns. Wow. What a
Wild.
Statement game for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, like I said, every time Trubisky does bad, he comes back with a game like this, and you're just like, is he good?
I think he got better protection, though, because usually he's getting sacked constantly. He only got sacked 3 times today, whereas Watson on the other side got sacked 6 times. That's insane.
Yeah, but they're dealing with a lot of stuff right now. Fuller's out. I think there's a couple more injuries on their offense right now.
Yeah, Brandon Cooks was out. Fuller,
Yeah.
as we know, suspended. So they were down to using. The guy's name's Chad Hansen. I've never heard of him, but he sounds like he's a 90s singer.
Yeah, I actually do agree with that statement.
Rough year for the Texans because they're now 4-9, and their first round pick, I should say, is going to the Miami Dolphins, which
Who
could
looked
be
great today too.
our great segue is that they covered the spread. It was 33-27. The Chiefs did win in Miami.
They almost won that game too before they gave it away.
I don't know if you know this, but when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes played that game in Miami. They mentioned it constantly throughout the broadcast. They're like, oh, well, last time he played here, he.
Oh yeah, they have to. It's one of the commentating laws of the world.
Yeah, it's etched in stone. The defense though for Miami looked incredible. Like they picked off Mahomes twice in the first quarter.
And that nasty one-handed pick in the end zone.
That was insane. That was by far the catch of the day until we'll get to it later. But the Colts had an interception that was like at the same level. Either way, like Mahomes came into this game with I think 2 interceptions on the season, and now he has 3 in the first half to the Dolphins.
But then goes and turns it around and scores 21 points in 2.5 minutes.
They were up 30-10, and the Dolphins battled back. Like Tua hung in there for 300 yards. They're doing it without much of any running backs. DeAndre Washington filled in because Gaskins has COVID. I give the Dolphins a lot of credit for sticking in this game.
Yeah, I really do. They played very well. I feel like they showed they're a real threat. And I don't know what adjustments Andy Reid made in the second half, but it worked.
Well, they got an amazing run from Tyreek Hill where he broke off for a 32-yard touchdown. So that's just one of those. Tyreek Hill is going to be faster than any defense. So the
True.
Dolphins can play it perfectly. I think
and
Brian
still
Flores
get burned.
like Brian Flores was in the conversation, still is in the conversation for Coach of the Year. But I mean, we don't do moral victories in the NFL. That's probably as good as you can feel after losing to the defending champions. Knowing
Yeah.
that your rookie quarterback was able to keep you in the game.
Yeah. That was it was a crazy game. The whole first half, you were sitting there thinking like, oh, someone might have figured them out. Like, the Dolphins are the real deal. And I still leave the game thinking the Dolphins are the real deal. But just the way Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes can just go and take over a football game whenever the fuck they feel like it.
Yeah, but the Dolphins definitely were showing. They
A
looked like
lot.
they looked
They
like
were showing a
kryptonite
lot.
for a minute because they made Patrick Mahomes look vulnerable. You know, like he wasn't in his game when he was throwing the ball. In the second half, he turned it up and ended up with nearly 400 yards.
No, I agree. If they battle back and make it in as a wild card, they could be a problem in the postseason because they're surging at the right time.
Right, and the Bills right now are losing, so they're not losing any ground in the AFC East. They play each other, Dolphins and Bills, last game of the season. Who knows? That could be a playoff championship for the AFC East.
Could be.
That would be fun. Let's go out to the Meadowlands, where the New York Fumble Giants. Oh, did I say fumble? Sorry, that one slipped away. I practiced
oh,
those.
man.
Practiced those. Danny drops his back. I mean, it was 26-7, but it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't like the Cardinals were playing a great game. In the first half, Jones fumbled it twice. He picked one back up. They fumbled on a kickoff, and the 2 turnovers set the Cardinals up, and they got a touchdown and a field goal. It was 13-0 at the half. 10 points off the Giants fumbles. They were right in that game, the Giants.
Yeah. I'm really not sure what happened other than, Daniel Jones has been out a little bit. He's just trying to get it back together. That's really the only thing I can really think because he was on a run before all this happened. You know what I mean? Like,
it seems like there's a chance his leg isn't fully healed because I don't think the Cardinals have that good of a defense where the Giants just looked like they had nothing.
I know, but it's still like, I don't know, when someone's coming back like that, like, I don't hold as much weight over it in the first couple games because just you hear it from players all the time. The timing in the NFL is just different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. So but that's what
but
I
just-
think is like.
Just getting out of it for a little bit, like, it gives you that split second, and then when you're not trying to think out of the word this, I'm sorry.
You're saying like just by being away from having the first team reps.
It
to,
just
like, set him back a little bit?
it just gets your timing off. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're definitely dead on there because you could see it where he was just missing guys or was making the reads and then not realizing how much time he had in the pocket.
And then you revert back to your old ways when faced with a certain type. Like, you revert back to what you're more comfortable doing, and I think that's something that led to the drops.
So the problem for me with the Giants now is next week they play the Browns, who we know have Myles Garrett and will get after Jones. Then after that they
100%.
play in Baltimore. They play the Ravens. So this game against the Cardinals was the one like I thought, okay, the Giants can win this and make some noise, as we were talking about on the last show.
Yeah. But no one
'Cause
expected them to beat the Seattle Seahawks, so
That's true. That's fair. It's a good trade-off. I mean, they end the year with the Dallas Cowboys, who made a little splash today. So the Giants could, need to win that game, and I don't know if they can't score at all with Daniel Jones looking the way he's looked. The Cowboys look good today. The Cowboys won 30-7.
yeah.
It was the
But
Andy Dalton revenge game.
Washington, until, Alex got hurt. They were looking pretty
Yes.
good themselves and still got the win, though.
Big day for the NFC East. A lot
Yeah.
happened.
Eagles won, too. Eagles beat
Yeah.
the Saints.
I know. I picked them. I picked the Saints. I'm sorry, guys. Everyone, feel free to let me know how I ruined your Sunday by picking the Giants and the Saints. Fucking
Yeah,
NFC
but
East, man.
no one expected that game. No one expected that game.
Not at all. I mean,
Do you think the Eagles players gave up on Carson Wentz? This is probably a good way to segue into this game.
Yeah, I actually do, because you saw it last week when they made the switch to Jalen Hurts. They obviously Jalen Hurts threw a touchdown, but they got a punt return for a touchdown. And I know putting a quarterback has nothing to do with the special team, other than you're just it's a
Hyped
different
to have someone
feel.
else. Yeah.
You just the whole air on the sideline. Like, Hurts didn't have an incredible game. He had 167 yards and touchdown, but he ran for 106 yards.
That's true.
Miles Sanders went off, 115 yards, 2 touchdowns. The defense woke up. Defense was getting after them. They had 5 sacks. I mean, it was just a different team.
The Eagles are really so fucked with this Carson Wentz contract because they even said it like, look, Carson Wentz is going to be our quarterback. Like, that's how we see him. Because they don't have an option. You can't cut a guy and still pay him $58 million a year.
No, it's not
Or
58
for next
million
year.
a year. Yeah.
Or 58 for next year. You know what I mean? It's like 58 and then 28 and then like still 15 the third year or something like that.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. So they
Can't cut him.
They're in such a bind because we've talked about this before, and I do think another team would take a chance on him, but not for that.
Not for 58 million, my guy.
Unless they could make it some way where the Eagles split and take a portion of his salary, and then I could see him going somewhere else, but that's a mess.
But they'd still have to take so much that I don't think it'd be worth it.
I don't know. If you could trade him, like, I don't know, I'm just looking at some other teams. The Bears quarterback played well, but I don't know. I just feel like there's so many opportunities that there are places he could end up. I think the Bears or the Jaguars.
Plus, just another thing to add into this, his injury struggles.
Yeah, that's a great point too.
Like, he's been staying healthy better this year. I mean, I don't think he's been hurt really at all. But before that, I don't think he ever completed a full season. Except for maybe his rookie year.
Yeah, I mean, he had what was like looking like an MVP season, then he tore his ACL. He's battled back injuries. This year he's been on the field, he's been healthy. He's just been under pressure, just getting sacked. 50 sacks in 12 games. Like, he's had no help.
I agree, but
I think he's made mistakes too, but he's been getting no help on top of his miscomings.
No, I 100% agree with you on there, but I don't think any of that's going to make up for the fact that they're going to have to pay him $58 million a year. I don't think someone's taking a portion of that. I don't think, at least not a big enough portion where it's going to be worth it to the Eagles.
I wonder what they'll do going forward.
I just think they have no option but to keep him, at the very least for next year. 28 million's a lot more to move, a lot easier to move than 58 million.
I'm just talking about like next week, because next week they play the Cardinals. Who starts there? Do you go with Wentz or do you ride the hot hand with Jalen Hurts?
I'd probably go Hurts.
I think you have to. I mean, yeah, if he was able to get the win. I think this was also kind of a trap game for the Saints, where like next week they're playing Kansas City, which is what very likely could be a Super Bowl matchup, and I think they just took this for granted. The rookie quarterback, no problem, and Sean Payton dropped the ball.
Yeah, I can definitely agree on that, and I also thinking they were just feeling themselves like no matter who's quarterback, we're winning all these games, blah, 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 blah. And no one expected the Eagles to beat the Saints. So like you said, perfect idea, like perfect place to have a trap game.
Yeah, absolutely. I
think it was a perfect storm from both sides. I think the Eagles with the switch kind of got a little life put into them, and the Saints were maybe focused on Kansas City, maybe sniffing their jocks a little bit.
Yeah, I think they just got caught looking ahead, and but right behind them, I mean, the Tampa Bay Bucks, another of my picks, they won. So the Bucks are looking like they will be a playoff team. I don't want a hot Tom Brady coming, a Bucks team that's playing well coming into the playoffs. I don't know if I want to face them. And with the Saints losing that game, the Saints are not the number 1 seed anymore. The bye goes to Green Bay.
Yeah, and like you're saying with that is not only a hot Tom Brady, but just right at the time where all these pieces on offense will probably start figuring each other out, especially now after adding in Antonio Brown and stuff like that, where everyone's going to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so let's get into that for a second because that was one of the picks for the week. I went 3-2. I went 3-2 last week. 60% of the time, it works every time. Tom Brady threw for 2 touchdowns. He actually didn't throw the ball much, only 23 attempts, but they didn't really need to. They would just kind of, this game went very, very fast. A lot of running plays. This game, the first quarter took, I think, 22 minutes, like real time.
Wow. That's actually super short. Holy fuck.
The Vikings had the ball 93 minutes, most of possession, and the Vikings actually had more yards than the Bucks.
Really?
Yep, but then
But yards don't mean shit if you can't score.
can't score in the touchdowns. Yeah, Dalvin Cook had a nice game. They just couldn't get in the end zone. Stop him on 4th down, and I think that's got to be pretty much it for the Vikings.
Yeah.
6-7.
It was a nice run, but I don't think with the teams that are still around, I don't think anyone's making the postseason at 9-7 this year.
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, they play the Bears next week, so both of those teams will be 6-7. That'll be a fun game in the sense that like one of those teams will rise to 7-7.
Yeah, and that'll be fun just in looking down the line in the future, hopefully.
And then the Vikings play the Saints, which is going to be fun because I feel like that's just a playoff matchup that happens every year. Miracle in Minnesota and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they end with the Lions. Speaking of the Lions, we did not talk about the Lions, who lost to Green Bay. Packers win 31-24. Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers. The guy threw for 290 yards, 3 touchdowns. He ran for a touchdown. And
old man Rodgers.
Yeah, as dominant as that game was, like Green Bay was in firm control of the Lions with Chase Daniel as the quarterback because Matt Stafford got hurt. The Lions came down, kicked a field goal. The Lions covered the spread.
Let's go.
I
We
don't think
love
anybody-
covering the spread.
Yeah, that's all it's about on this show. All it's about.
Yeah. Just Green Bay's all the teams that like there were times throughout the year where we were like, I don't know. They all seem to be surging right as we're getting into like playoff talk. You know what I mean?
The Bucks looked really good. Green Bay has looked really good. Like the last 3 games they've played since the Bears game. Then last week they beat up on the Eagles. Like the Packers are looking good. Devontae Adams is such a freak, man.
The Browns are looking good. Like all the teams that we're like in the beginning of the year, we were like, yeah, I don't know about them. If the teams that didn't fall off are all surging going into the playoffs, and that I feel like it's just gonna make for a very, very exciting playoffs, especially in the first round.
Playoffs are gonna be so much fun. You know, one of the first round games this year is gonna be played on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, with like a special like kids broadcasting type to like make them be able to understand it more.
110% chance that whoever wins the NFC East is going to be on the Nickelodeon game.
Let's go.
Washington football team, congrats. You're going to be on the Giants if they get in. Yeah, your Nickelodeon game.
Yo, could you imagine Alex Smith, after all he went through to get back into the league, all of a sudden he has fucking SpongeBob and Patrick commentating his game or some shit.
Right?
Like the fucking disrespect.
They're showing his leg injury and they're just like, oh, let's see if SpongeBob can sew it together. Like,
That's we're terrible people. We're going to hell.
It's not funny, but it's a little funny.
Just a
Speaking of that,
tad.
Alex Smith, hey, the Washington football team won the Alex Smith revenge game in San Francisco. Chase Young is a animal.
Yeah.
An animal. Sorry, grammar people. Chase Young had a sack. He forced a fumble. He recovered a fumble for a touchdown. He was defended 2 passes. He was on every play. There's just nothing the 49ers could do without Chase Young getting his hands involved.
Yeah, Chase Young is. I feel the same way about Chase Young this year that I did about Joey Bosa last year.
Yes.
It's just like fuck,
Those Ohio
man.
State DNs.
It's really just like fuck, man. Like you're scary and fuck.
He's going to need double teams. Yeah, every play, you have to put a second guy on him. Otherwise, he will get to the quarterback. He will get in the backfield.
Yeah, and he's got a mean streak in him. Like, just when you see him hit someone, he's hitting them. Like, he's doing legal hits. He's not doing. I'm not trying to say he's like. I'm not trying to say mean streak is in like like Vontez Perfect type
Right.
mean streak. I mean
Like
just
Chase,
like I think he hits hard. He's
Yeah.
fucking.
he's
going
huge.
to-
He's so jacked.
He's going to take you down at any means necessary.
Dude, they're gonna have to like blur out his hits on Nickelodeon, and
Yeah, right. Like I
they're
don't.
gonna,
I think that might
Cosmo
make
and
it
Wanda are
rated
gonna
like
come
T
and,
for
like-
teen.
yeah, the Cosmo and Wanda are gonna come and just be like, yeah, no, you can't see this shit. Just cover it. Poor
I
Alex
really-
Smith though.
I really want to know how that whole Nickelodeon thing's gonna work out. Like that's fucking crazy.
They're just gonna randomly be like, oh, we're filling in time here because someone's leg is not looking too good.
Yeah. What if a catastrophic injury? They have to have it on tape delay, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you'd think so, right? Like, you don't want Dak Prescott's ankle facing the wrong direction.
Like, yeah, it's got to be at least on like 5-minute time delay, just in case, or like if no one can be mic'd up in that game.
I was
There
just
is no
about- I was-
miking up.
I was just about to say, especially with no crowd, you can just hear all the trash talk.
Because they're not going to give a fuck. They're gonna be sitting there like someone's going to come into their head. SpongeBob says don't curse. Fuck you, don't curse. This is football. Like,
You know, at least half the players are gonna be like, "Oh, they don't want me to curse. Fuck yeah, I'm gonna curse."
yeah.
Unless it's Juju, then he would just be built for Nickelodeon.
No, yeah, they should put the Seahawks in that game, just to mic up Russell Wilson,
Oh, that'd be fun.
or
See it?
or if the Colts make it, Phillip Rivers.
Phillip Rivers. That's a game we did not get to yet, but Phillip Rivers and the Colts, 44-27 in Las Vegas. The Colts are 9-4. They're behind the Titans because of the tiebreaker, but the Colts are looking good.
Yeah, and Phillip Rivers, I feel like every time his name starts circulating in the media, like, oh, this guy's not doing too well. He's not doing as good as like people think he is. He goes off and has a game.
Up to Bills just scored a defensive touchdown. They're now winning 9-7. Yeah, pick 6.
Let's go.
Oof. Roethlisberger throwing pick 6. Back to Phil Rivers. I recently included him in my most recent fantasy football article. I said to play Phil Rivers because he's not the splashiest name. He's not the spiciest guy. He's Phil Rivers. He's not going to go nuts and give you 30 points and win you your week. He's just the guy that minimizes the chance of putting up 5 points. You know, like,
Yep.
He was projected to get 17 on ESPN, and like a true American, he scored 17.76. So he knows what's good. Jonathan
He did
Taylor,
his job and then a little extra.
he did it for the country. Jonathan Taylor, dude, the rookie, 150 yards flat, 2 TDs. He was just tearing up the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders were starting to look legit. Well, everyone thought they were legit because they beat Kansas City and gave them a little trouble in the next game, but
I feel like that next game was such like a moral victory for them of being like, we held it within 5 points against the Chiefs, and then they were so happy about that the next week they got their shit rocked by the Falcons. That was embarrassing. They needed a miracle with the dumbest play call of all time to beat the Jets, the worst team in football. And this week at home, they got blown apart by Phillip Rivers, you know? Like, not that Phillip Rivers, again, he's not bad. He's just not the guy who you're like, you know, he's gonna go nuts.
We understand what he is in Indy. He's a stopgap. It just is what it is.
Do you think he's gonna be there next year?
I think it depends on what happens with free agency. I think if they can get someone else, they will.
See, I could see them.
I could definitely see him still being there in more of like a backup role, or a just in case role. And then if they get like a younger guy like a Carson Wentz, like we're talking about, like a lot of people are talking about, which I do not want for them.
You know who they're gonna get?
Who's that?
You're about to say it. I know you are. Sam Darnold's going to be an Indianapolis Colt.
Yeah.
I think the second the Jets take Trevor Lawrence,
I would like that.
I would like that too. The Colts always have a great offensive line, and Darnold doesn't know what that is. He's just not experienced with it.
He has never met one. Not in his whole life.
He's going to show up his first day of practice as an Indianapolis Colt, see what the linemen are doing, and are like, you guys allowed to do that?
He's just like, yo, I have so much time. Can I get a snack? Like,
wait, when I throw the ball, I'm not gonna just be hit right away? What? It's gonna be brand new. But dude, the Colts are 9-4. They're making a run. The Raiders now 7-6. I think they're probably not gonna make the playoffs at 10-6, and that's their best case.
Yeah, I really don't believe so at this point. They just had too much go on this season with their COVID stuff. You never know who's like not really, because it stays with you after. Like you might be healed, like you might have gotten better, but like from what I hear, you still feel it in your lungs for months after. You get into like a fog almost after, like.
Yeah, like we were saying, the brain fog might have been impacting Cam Newton in those couple games after, because he missed the game against the Chiefs. They looked terrible. And he missed a game against the Broncos, I believe. And then he came back and was not looking himself.
Yeah, and a lot of people have talked about that.
Speaking of the Broncos, like their COVID quarterback crisis, they came out and Drew Lock, not Luck, actually balled out. He had 4 touchdowns, 280 yards. The Broncos won their Super Bowl rematch with the Panthers. They won 32-27, which is a very weird football score. But Drew Lock balled out, 280 yards, 4 touchdowns, 21 of 27. That's better. That's 77%. Every time he has a bad 3-week stretch, and I'm like, okay, he's done. Like we've seen the tape. The jury's out on him. He goes and has a game like this. I mean, he balled out.
Like you said, it's the same way I feel about Mitch Trubisky. Every time we're getting to the point where he's just like, he's over, he'll have one game where he goes off, and you're just like, all right, I see what they're talking about.
Yes. But that's a great comparison. I mean, KJ Hamler, this rookie who wasn't one of the more talked about rookie receivers, had 2 catches, 86 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jerry Jeudy, he's going to be there for the future. He's balling out with Noah Fant, who left the game in the first quarter, which killed one of my fantasy teams. Like, I don't even want to talk about that. And then, I mean, he's done it all year without Cortland Sutton. This is a defense that, when they get Von Miller back, will be a very good defense. Maybe the Broncos, they're cooking something up for the next couple of years.
Yeah. I definitely see the building blocks they have. It's whether they can capitalize on them.
It's such a tough division.
And it's hard when you have a quarterback who's playing like that. It's just like, do you or do you not? Do you pull the trigger or do you run with the guy? Like, you know what I mean?
Right. It's like the inconsistency, it's got to drive you nuts as a fan. Do you buy back in? Do you pull out? Do you buy back in? Do you want him? I don't know. That's nuts. But the AFC West is such a tough division. That's why we got the helmets on the mixer right there on screen.
Let's go.
Because the Chiefs, we know, are going to run the division as long as Patrick Mahomes wants to. Like, that's them. The Chargers have a great rookie quarterback. We'll talk about the Chargers in a minute. Like, the Chargers get the right coach, they'll be good. The Raiders, John Gruden's
The Raiders,
more.
the Raiders are right on the verge of breaking out.
He's made more out of them than I expected, so I think that's going to be a real fun division to keep our eyes on for the future.
Yeah, but I feel like the Raiders are at the point where either next year they're gonna start going down, or they're gonna figure it out. Like they're at that crucial tipping point where, like, this is where you find out if the moves are really paying off.
Drew Lock, the way we're saying he's so inconsistent, Mitch Trubisky's so inconsistent. I think the same thing is with Carr, where like he can have big games, and we saw him against the Falcons have a terrible game.
Yeah, he's definitely that type of guy too. Though I'd feel better with Carr than with a Trubisky or a Lock. I feel like he's shown you a little more. Like
Yeah, I guess
he's shown that ability to take over a game, where I feel
That's
like
true.
the other two haven't.
that's true. But Lock has these games where if he needs to put up the numbers, like he will.
Yeah, but I never feel like he's the one taking over the game. You know what I mean? But that's also sample size, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. He's too football young, I guess. Where like he's been in the
Yeah.
league, but he had the injury, and then this year they had the COVID situation where like, yes, he's a veteran in the sense that he's been around, but he's also like very minimal tape
He
on
hasn't
him.
played a lot.
Exactly. But speaking of the AFC West, I want to talk about the Chargers because man, Anthony Lynn has no idea what he's doing.
Yeah.
You see, at the end of the first half, the Chargers have no timeouts left. 3rd and 1. They run the ball.
Yeah,
And
what are
then
you doing, my guy?
They put they left the offense out. Herbert, Keenan Allen, everybody's out. The last second they run on the kicking team, didn't even get the kick off. Like, you're an NFL coach. You got to be more aware of the situation.
That was a move that Todd Bowles was just like, learn clock management, my guy.
Right? Like, oh my god, dude.
Like, fuck. That
The
was
Chargers,
big.
the Chargers ended up winning this game, but if they lost, I don't know how you keep Anthony Lynn.
Yeah, and they had all these weapons in past years with Phillip Rivers, and like you said, in the past few years he hasn't been a world beater, but he's consistent. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And he has a lot of weapons around him. They should have won a lot more than they have been.
They won this game mostly because the Falcons just collapsed. The Falcons were winning 17-10 at the half, and the final score was 20-17. The second
Yeah.
half, literally, I think in the last 6 minutes of the game, Matt Ryan got picked off. The Chargers get the ball, try to move down. Herbert gets picked off. Then, like, the next series, Ryan gets picked off again. It was just a sloppy.
Wait. You're telling me Matt Ryan and the Atlanta Falcons fell apart in the second half?
I'm floored, man. I just don't see how this.
I
This is
don't
shocking to
believe
me.
it.
Matt Ryan, you needed him to just hand the ball off and kill some clock. No, dude.
He's the best at that, dude.
I think he's got to move. He's got to
Yeah.
want out. Like just like we've talked about on the show before, the mental trauma from that Falcons 28-3. Like that's what you're synonymous with. Matt Ryan. Maybe you go to the Colts. Maybe you go to the Bears. Hey, I don't know.
Brady's the QB killer.
He's just not the same. He's not the same person. I blame Belichick, dude. Belichick's
Yeah.
defense just baffles people. We saw it with Herbert last week. Herbert came back this week and looked good. Like,
He made Sam see ghosts. He did that to Goff. He did that to Matty Ice. Remember when he was Matty Ice? Ever
Yeah,
since
this-
that game, he had like Matty Ice has been dead.
he's he sneaky won the MVP that year.
Yeah.
I think the only game we haven't talked about yet is the Tennessee Titans winning 31-10 over the Jaguars. The Jags, like, you got to give the Jags credit because they somehow won their first game of the year, beating the Colts. I'm sorry, man. This thing just keeps popping up. They beat the Colts and then have lost 12 straight. So any other year, they'd probably be the worst team in the NFL.
Yeah. Which sucks. It really sucks.
Yeah.
But because now we have to go 0-16 because there's they're not. Like, not that I expect them to win this game, but it's at the point where they don't have anything they can win.
Dude, I literally opened the ESPN app just to check the box score, and I started playing a video, so I closed the app, and I tossed it aside, and it still was making the noise.
Yeah,
So,
it happens.
ESPN, you guys are kind of jerks for that one.
Yeah, figure it out, my guy.
All right, so
Yeah, Derrick Henry though had a fucking night. 215 yards, 2 touchdowns.
and
but-
he came out in the fourth quarter too. They protected their investment, but if he wanted to, I would easily see him getting 265 that game.
Yeah, like
Great.
he could have, especially against a Tyree defense, he could have gone up into that top 10 all time in a game for sure.
Easily could have hit the record books. Also, did you see in the beginning, the first quarter, AJ Brown reached out, makes this incredible one-handed grab.
Monster.
Dude,
And he's a guy who's known like for not having the best hands.
Nah, he
and-
looked like Spider-Man on that one. Just
Yeah.
got it.
That was
Such
a
a great catch.
monster catch, monster game by the Titans. Again, another team that, like, at some point in the season, you were just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, they
Yeah.
could go either way, and they're just hitting at the right time.
Well, I had my doubts about them, especially with the first half last week against Cleveland, but they actually battled back and made that a one-touchdown game. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a team in the AFC, you never want to see Derrick Henry, especially at this part of the year when your defense is banged up, your defense is tired. That's when Henry feasts, and he got a nice game against the Jags, but he'll be fresh come playoffs.
Oh, yeah. He always surges even more at the end of the year, which is the complete opposite of any other running back in the league, and it's incredible.
It is, dude. He's a holiday season hero. Like, he just comes to life, which is perfect for the playoffs and fantasy.
All right, so now do you want to preview tomorrow's game?
Yeah, we can take a look at tomorrow's game between the Cleveland Browns and the Baltimore Ravens. It is in Cleveland. Last I saw, it was a pick'em. So Vegas doesn't have any opinion on it. Right now, I lied. It has moved to -3 Baltimore.
I'm probably gonna put money on that because I'm really feeling Browns all day.
You're feeling Browns all day? I'm glad you said that because I am too. I think the way that they came out last week, they showed that run game is almost untouchable.
And like we were saying, just we don't know how they're gonna deal with this whole COVID outbreak that they had. Like you don't know if guys are really 100%, even if they are back.
Are you talking about Baltimore?
Yeah.
Right. Mark Andrews, man.
And
He's gonna play.
They've just been off all season. They haven't been what they were last year all this season. There was not one point.
They really haven't. I mean, Lamar's been looking better of late.
True.
Last week he looked good. Ingram and Dobbins are like they're good weapons, but like we always say, they don't have a receiver, so you can focus more on stopping the run when you have no deep threat to worry about.
And you can keep guys out of coverage to kind of spy or contain or whatever they need to do with Lamar Jackson.
Exactly, and you have Myles Garrett, and he's going to disrupt any offensive line. So when you have a guy like Lamar who scrambles out, the offensive line, they're just going to get tired, and eventually Myles Garrett's going to make his presence felt.
And you don't have your starting left tackle that you paid all that money, which is just going to make it even worse. I think the Browns win that game pretty handily.
I think that's a very big part of, like you were saying, the Ravens haven't looked like the Ravens this year, but I think it's because, like we said, Stanley went out, the left tackle was out, and they lost Marshall Yanda, who retired in the offseason, and he was like an all-pro. So the line, because you need to be an athletic line when you're running those triple options with Lamar and Ingram and J.K. Dobbins, who's insanely fast. I think that's going to be a really fun game.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great game. I'm actually very excited for that one.
That's probably the most excited I've been for like a Browns game in a long time. Although next week the Browns Giants are going to be on Sunday Night Football.
I was reading a stat on Baker, like his interception woes are gone, huh? I forget
Yeah.
exactly. I forget exactly. It was something like he hasn't thrown an interception in his last like 300 attempts.
Yeah, he's figured it out. He's been way more accurate, way more consistent.
I
mean,
I think it's spreading out the ball and not trying to force it to Odell.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry's having a hell of a year filling in for Odell, but the running game too, the Hunt with Chubb.
I know. I'm just speaking on. I'm not saying Baker Mayfield's the entire reason they're winning this year or anything like that. Like, no, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, best 1-2 punch in the game. You got to put a heavy credit on that run game. But Baker, like everyone was almost writing Baker off after last season, and he's coming out and fixing the problems. And he's playing
He hasn't
the right
thrown
way.
an interception in 5 weeks.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's got to be a huge improvement for him. Yeah, he threw 7 in the first however many games that was, first half of the season. So he's definitely figured things out. I think relying on the running game takes a lot of pressure off of him, so he's not forcing throws.
When did Odell go out?
That's a great question.
Sorry, as you can see, my computer's all tied up. Yeah, but I feel like those numbers would have to coexist with each other. And I don't really know if it's from his or from Baker's side, because I can see, as being Baker Mayfield, just knowing like, hey, this guy's Odell Beckham Jr., let's get him the ball. And Odell came out in an interview, I think this week, saying like, look, I'm not going to be happy if we win the game, but I have 0 catches and I didn't help contribute.
Yeah, Odell seems like he's a me, not we guy.
No, I don't 100% think that, because if you talk to any player that plays with Odell, they say he's a great teammate. He's a great locker room guy. Everyone seems to like him. It's management maybe that might not like him so much, or it's the fans that are making a lot over his comments. But
well, we knew
the
that in
locker
New
room
York
seems to like him.
We knew that in New York that all of his teammates loved him, but it was the ownership and the Giants' way that they weren't in love with his
And the
antics and
media,
stuff.
honestly.
New York media is that's the New York media, man. They're just gonna rip anybody.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, it is what it is. You kind of got to know what you sign up for.
I'm gonna be so mad if on the New York Post tomorrow, the front cover for the sports section says New York fumble Giants.
Probably.
They're
They're going to steal your line. You're
Dude,
going to be very upset.
I'm gonna be so fucking pissed. Just send me my royalties at least.
Yeah, right? We're trademarking that right here, right now. You seen it. That's not how a trademark works, but I'm just going to tell you that it is.
I like the way your legal analysis breaks that down. We declare it, therefore it is. Yeah.
Right.
So that's our phrase. We're gonna put it on shirts. We're gonna put it everywhere. It's gonna be ours.
All right, guys. I think that's it for us this week.
Yeah.
So there it is. Basement Boys Podcast, episode 30. Make sure you get those calls in. Don't forget it.
We have a very special episode coming up later this week.
Yes, we do. We'll let that come out when it happens. We'll kind of drop it. We got a couple things cooking in the next couple weeks that I'm really excited about. A couple things in the works, couple things confirmed, couple things not confirmed, but just stay tuned, guys. It's gonna start getting fun around here.
We're gonna have a very fun holiday season.
That is for sure. All right, guys. We are the Basement Boys Podcast. I am Chris Gray. Somewhere. Eric Mincer. See ya.
Stay positive and test negative.
Welcome to the basement.